I've gone through different periods of my career, and I've looked back, and the regrets are not having a more open mindset at earlier times.
Welcome to the Tip the Skills podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by Mark Anderson. This is his second time on the podcast. So if you haven't listened to his first episode, make sure you check that out. Now, since the last time Mark and I spoke, he has doubled in size from 100 cases per month to 200. We talked about intake, software, how Mark spends half of his time away from his office and how he makes that work. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode. Well, Mark Anderson, thank you for
In the house.
joining me again.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
So right before we started rolling, I said, what do you want to talk about? And he goes, I don't know. I've doubled since the last time we spoke. I'm like, that's a great subject. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, the firm has doubled. Last time we talked
Oh, yeah, no, not you and wait.
on camera. Last time we talked on camera. Yeah, my firm was a bit smaller. We've grown a lot. Had a lot of...
Doubling is a lot. How many active cases do you sign? Well, no. How many cases do you sign up per month?
A little over 200.
That's crazy. You're like the underdog.
That's cool. I want to be the underdog.
Like nobody knows.
I don't... Well,
Well, now
I really shouldn't come on your podcast because
Yeah.
I like not being known.
Now everybody's going to know.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's good. I like it. I like it.
Congrats. So how did you double in cases?
Well, as I'm talking to my SEO agency owner,
Well, besides that, but of course you could
that's
throw
part
me
of
in
it.
there
It's
too.
for sure part of it. Just double down on everything. Just spend money. Part of getting cases is just doing the math. What is your limit that you'll pay? And I just enforce that and go out and try to get as many cases as I can within that budget. And whatever the source is fine with me, whether it's SEO or off digital. We do a lot of digital stuff. Really started rolling out LSAs, pay-per-click. We've done them before, but doing them bigger and better.
You trusted me this time?
Yes.
Oh, no, I told you I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
Yeah, let's not get...
Can we tell the full story?
No, I don't think it's a good idea because you're going to give my clients ideas that I don't want them to have. But fine, go ahead.
But you want me to be real, right?
Yeah, fine. Go ahead.
No.
Whatever.
No, I'll just tell
We're about to find out who the real boss is at LawRank.
So, I want to do LSAs and pay-per-click, and you didn't want my business. And you told me to go elsewhere because you're afraid I was going to get mad if it didn't work out, which is silly because it's all a risk. And I know that.
No, you're not telling the story correctly.
Tell it.
You had never done PPC. At least not in a very long time, if I recall correctly.
That's
or
right.
never.
I'd done it, but it had been a while.
Okay. And I was like, the cost per... And you are so... What's like... The word's not spoiled, but you are so lucky. Like your cost per case from SEO is under $1,000.
Yeah, then I get a lot of referrals, which are like
Yes.
essentially free.
Yes and no, but yes, I see what you mean. So I just felt like you are so used to this like super phenomenal cost per case. And I was like, when it comes to PPC, it's not going to be anywhere near that. So I wanted you to just go try it with someone else so that you could see what like that threshold is. And then I knew we would do better than whoever you went with. So then you'd come back. Our cost per case would be lower, but much higher than 500 or 1,000, whatever it is. Your cost per case is not 500, but whatever, under $1,000, right? So then you would be like, oh, this is great. But like if you didn't have a point of reference, I didn't want to jeopardize the SEO relationship over the PPC relationship, right? So, and I don't know, just like I felt like you were kind of, I don't know, nervous about it, or not nervous, but like very analytical about it. And I was like, Mark, it's a much higher cost per case. And I felt like you had to see it somewhere else first. But you didn't listen to me, so tell people what you did.
No, so I interviewed folks and I could not get comfortable. Now, they all wanted my SEO work. So you're like saying no to me,
Yeah?
but I'm going to people that are trying to pull my business.
You're smart. I knew you were not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Because
was worried about that.
the SEO is working, so why would I change it up? So then I came back to you, and thankfully your husband got involved at some point. He said, why aren't you doing this tomorrow?
No, I think you said, I'm just going to go directly to Marno since you won't do it.
Yeah.
And since you know him. Like a lot of clients haven't had the chance to meet him, but Mark and his wife and me and Marno had dinner in Miami a year ago.
Yeah, my birthday weekend in March.
So they had like each other's phone numbers and like they were in touch. So Mark was like, I'm just going to tell Marno that you're not doing this for me.
That you're not wanting my business.
And he texted Marno. Marno was like, of course we'll do it for you. And I was like, okay, great.
And you got mad because I went around you, but...
Yeah. Well, I knew you told me you were like, I'm just going to go to your husband. I was like, fine, go to my husband. I knew he wasn't going to say no to you, but I also like... I felt okay with how it went down because like you really pushed for it. It was like your choice. Like you had interviewed people. I felt fine at that point.
So it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
So we ended up with rolling out LSA's pay-per-click and it's all working.
Yeah,
and
of course it is.
Going back to the first question, that's part of the doubling is getting more cases in the digital space.
And then you're forgetting the whole... So when we first launched LSA, I think a few months into it, Mark gets put into a high rotation, which always makes me really nervous because like high rotations in LSA tend to be really finicky. So it's most likely like you're going to get pulled out of that rotation. So Mark is all excited, like we signed X amount of cases. And I was like, well, Mark, it's going to end. It's going to take you out of that high rotation. Like it's not scalable. Like trying to like set expectations with you. And you're like, you'll do some fairy dust. You'll figure it out. And I was like, no, we will not figure it out. It's going to take you out of the rotation. And it didn't, huh?
No, it's all fun. So I stopped like sharing information with you because it's good news, right? And I'm a client and I'm thinking, hey, things are going well. I'm going to share the news with you. And I stopped because I would say, hey, look, we got X amount of cases. And you wouldn't even say great or give it a thumbs up. You would say, it's about to stop. Get ready. And you're like so negative.
Well, no, it's just if you don't set expectations and like 9 out of 10 times it pulls out of that rotation, then people are like, what did you do wrong? Like you're messing up my account. And it's like, no, it's like, it's very, very, very common that you're taking out of that high rotation. Like you literally have to have really great intake and no missed calls and like such a great which I know you do, like internal system for it to run. So I just knew like, I'd rather set the expectations because it's likely that it will pull you out. And then if it doesn't, you're even like happier with us. Like you're probably only one of the few accounts that it didn't pull.
And maybe it will. I mean, and if so, then we'll do something different. We'll pivot and
I just want to set expectations. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with setting expectations. And you do still text me how many cases you get. So
yeah. Well, I want you to know.
Yeah, it makes me happy. Okay, but let's talk about the trajectory. You've opened up more Google My Business locations, right?
Correct.
You started LSA, Google Ads. What about offline?
Do a lot more social, a lot more, offline.
Well, it's social counts, I guess. I mean, it's online, but it's not offline, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't count. But sure.
Yeah. So all the different sources out there. I don't do radio, TV, or billboards, but everything else, right? So
I thought you were doing billboards.
No. They intrigue me.
I really think you need to do billboards. You need to talk to Brian White.
But billboards and not do radio, TV? I don't know.
Billboards and radio.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But for now, no. So did everything else, Do
you get cases from social?
Very few. Very few. I like it. I enjoy doing it.
You're actually like good. Like I just reposted one of your videos because it was, well, Sabina did, but she texted me. She's like, can I repost this and like say that like you'd always be in timeout? And I was like, yeah, I don't care. Go for it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
She got permission to post.
No, but I didn't tell her she could have done it. I wouldn't have cared.
I don't really get cases, but it helps stay top of mind, for the referrals out there, which you can't really measure that. Yeah. And I enjoy it. And wherever I go, the people that follow me, that's what they want to talk about because I do so much of it. And it's better now. Yeah, it's better than it used to be.
Yeah, no, they're actually good. I enjoy them. Some I like more than others, obviously. Like some are just like...
Some are stupid.
Some I just love. I'm like, oh, this is like right up my alley.
Yeah, some I don't even understand because my social media managers 24 and has a different sense of humor than me, and I just don't understand it, but I do it anyway.
How did you find them?
Found her on just posting on Indeed, interviewed a bunch of people, got the top 4, gave them a project to do. And the project was very simple. It's like what we do all the time, like do a video of something, a restaurant review, anything, just do a video, a short video. And all 4 of them did it, and hers were like way better than everybody else's. And based on the interviews, I didn't think she was the top candidate at all. Probably, excuse me, listening, probably 4th of the 4. But then when the decision came down, it was going to be, wait, what is she going to do in her job? She's going to do a bunch of videos. And it's like, why not make that the number 1 criteria? So
how long has she been with you now?
Exactly 1 year.
Oh, wow. And it's going well, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think she likes her job. I'm starting to give in to her ideas more than I used to. And it, a little bit outside my comfort zone, but she's got so many ideas. And I'm just
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Can I steal her?
No.
Okay.
You can borrow her like a few hours.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit about how that works. Like, how often do you record? How often are you posting? I assume you don't do anything except just like you're the human that is in the videos, but she does everything, I assume.
Yeah. So we'll have, it's not as formal as this, but like a pre-production meeting where we just go through her ideas.
Okay.
And that's usually not the same time we film.
Okay.
And so she'll run stuff by me and I'll say, yeah, let's do that. And then we'll, maybe that day, but usually the next day, we try to do this when I'm in town, which is, I'm gone a lot. So we try to bulk
Yeah, that
film.
was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, the goal is something up every day. And then I've said, so that's 5 times a week. We have my personal account, then we have the law firm account.
Okay.
And so 3 or 4 times on the law firm every day. And then we're experimenting every day during the week. We're experimenting with the weekend, which usually gets less views, but we're just trying to see if it matters to do it. So basically, we would need 5 videos a week for the personal account. And we film those just at one time. If we have the ideas, and they take we don't try that hard. We do 1 take usually, and that's it. And so we can film 5 in, like an hour or 2, easy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Then do that. And then the third part is she comes back with it and we work on the caption. And she does a draft. And I approved one during your presentation down.
Instead of paying attention to my presentation?
Well, it dragged a bit. So then I knew you were going to be talking about me at some point, and of course you did.
Yes.
It's the same story I've heard before, and I cringe every time. You change it up a little to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
It's about the failures of my intake team. If y'all have heard Maria talk at these seminars, I'm always mentioned she doesn't give me credit or...
Do you want me to give you credit?
No, not at all. Because the story.
I looked at you though.
The story, yeah, I saw that. The story's not flattering. It's just about a failure of my intake team. When that happens, but my intake team is much better now.
Yeah.
Part of it is we had to beef up and have more people. Sometimes it's just a matter of having enough people in the seats.
That's awesome. So before we get into intake, this social media specials, because I get asked about this a lot, like how do I find someone? What are the job description? Like what type of salary? Like what would you recommend a firm, like, do you have a job description?
Yeah. We
if somebody needs it, can they email
just
you?
reach out to me.
What's your email?
Mark@AndersonInjuryLaw.com.
Here, I'll give you his cell. I'm just kidding.
That's fine.
Oh, you would be okay with that.
Yeah, I don't care.
I want no one to have
Or just follow me and then DM me.
I lasted like 6 months in the space without giving away my cell.
When you gave it to me, you're like, don't give this away. I don't give it to anybody.
Really?
Yeah.
Now everyone has it. Because
Thought I
people
was
just
special.
intro me like via text. Like it's just, yeah, I really did try for a long time. So it sounds like I tried for more than 6 months. I probably tried for years to like not text with people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how you could do that.
Well, I tried. Didn't
You
work.
failed.
I failed miserably.
Okay. So yeah, we there's nothing magical about the post. I mean, there's so many young, talented people out there that want this kind of job. It's not a hard one to find now. A lot of them on a remote. You can't do it remote. You got to have in person.
Yeah, they have to come. And do they film with a phone, an iPhone, or with a camera?
We have 2 cameras, very similar to what these are. We have a setup just like this.
Okay.
We hardly ever use it. We have a room. Actually, her office is set up like this with lights, and we somewhere along the lines we figured out which cameras to get. You have 3, we have 2, and a lot of them are done just off a cell phone though.
Okay.
And so we just made sure we had a new 16 with a good camera, and a lot of them are done off the cell phone.
And do you ever have your staff be part of the videos?
Probably half of them.
Okay.
And it's no problem. We just walk, and whoever's there at the office, they don't complain. Maybe they will at some point, but they don't
No,
at
I'm
this
sure
point.
it's fun.
They don't care. And she's in a lot of them because if we need just one person, we'll just film each other.
Got it. So
But going back to your question, like how did you find them? I just posted on it, Indeed. I had just a regular ad. I'll be glad to share it, but it's nothing magical about it. And then we had a lot of people applying for it. There's a lot of I say young, it doesn't have to be young, but a lot of young folks that, recent college grads that see themselves as a social media consultant. And it was easy to find. We had a lot of quality folks apply.
yeah, I can imagine like so many college graduates that like basically grew up with TikTok.
Yeah.
Like it just makes perfect sense. Yeah. So in terms of you travel a lot, like how much out of the year are you gone?
Probably half the time.
Okay. So how do you manage your firm when you're remote? And do you think that your firm performs worse when you're not there?
I used to think they did. I don't think they do now. I stay in touch when I'm gone.
Okay.
So I always have my laptop and, obviously my cell phone. And so I'm around for, put out fires and consult with my staff, my lawyers on issues. But the main thing is not me staying in touch. It's just having a good leadership team. I've my COO, Leah, who you've met, is just awesome. And so as far as the operations of the firm, which is, we have 91 employees total. There's 11 lawyers and 80 staff. And so, staff-wise, she's running it.
Is everyone in person?
No.
All 91?
18 are full-time remote.
Okay.
A good chunk of them are hybrids.
Okay.
And I would like, when we grow further, and we're still growing, I want more remote and more hybrid.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why?
Expands the talent pool.
It does. Absolutely. 1,000%.
We just hired, she hadn't started yet, a paralegal supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't care because our paralegals are mostly remote. They come in 1 day a week. They're all local though. And I didn't care if she was local because most of her contact would be, phone, Zoom, Teams, all that stuff. And we hired one outside the area, still within the state of Texas. And she is just perfect for the job. And I'm not sure we could have found her if we had limited it to our area. So that's the main reason. I have 3 lawyers that are remote. One lives in Missouri, one in Florida, one in Arkansas, all licensed in Texas. But 2 are pre-lit. One's lit, but he can even do his job lit because there's so much remote depots, mediations. And if there's a trial, he just flies in.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, in terms of intake, besides hiring more people, what is the biggest takeaway from like a doubling in size? Like, what have you learned in terms of intake?
Adequately staffed is the number one thing. And then number 2.
Can I ask you something on
Sure.
that note? Like, when do you know it's time to add someone? Like, do you do it by number of calls? Like, if we get 1,000 calls a month, per 100 calls, we need 1 person. Like, is there a formula that you use?
Actually, there's 2 formulas. I look at signups, just
Okay.
net signups, but that doesn't talk about screens. That doesn't
Right.
talk about calls. And I have in my head about what it is. And right now we're overemployed. And so and I don't mind being overemployed.
You always say that.
Yeah, that's kind of my deal.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
always say that.
Yeah.
You do, right?
I do always say that.
Yeah,
And I say
that's
that
what
with
I thought.
all parts of the firm.
Yeah.
And so especially intake. And if they're sitting there with nothing to do for a little bit of the day, I'm totally fine with that.
So I think energetically, like, I'm big on energy. I think energetically, that just shows the universe an intent to grow. Like, I'm so confident that we're going to grow that, like, I'm happy being overstaffed, right? So I think that's like a very interesting, like, dynamic with energy. Because it's like you're so confident you're going to grow. You're like, I don't even care if we're overstaffed. That means that when we grow, we can like handle the growth.
Yeah. And maybe that's from learning over the past few years of this high growth period that it's so much better to be overstaffed than understaffed. And if you continue to grow, you won't be overstaffed very long.
But you do have really positive energy.
No, thank you.
I think we've talked about that before.
You have?
And did we talk about it on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Were you always like this?
I think I'm the same. People haven't really told me that until more recently. I don't know if it's just like a trend of the way people talk about vibe and energy, but I hear it all the time. And
and you're very successful. So I think like maybe people like notice it more because like I always look at successful people and I do like look for that. Like, do they have that very positive energy? Now, there are some successful people that I would argue don't really have that.
Yeah. There's some negative folk out there.
Yeah. So it's not the end all be all, right? But also it's like the inverse, right? Like most people that I think are like very negative, and it could just be like in one area of their life, whether it's like business or dating or friendships or they did a study on like luck. And they found that people that thought, I got this from Instagram. I have not fucking fact checked it. So
have you reposted it?
Maybe. Did you see it?
I don't know. I don't know where you're going.
So it was like a study that they did that people that thought were lucky were more likely to get lucky. And the way they did the study was they did a newspaper. They had a newspaper and they brought people in and they were like, hey, you have to count how many times this number or this word is in this newspaper. And before they gave them the newspaper, they asked them, do you consider yourself a lucky person or an unlucky person? And the majority of the people that said that they consider themselves lucky, on the second page, there was a sign that said, stop counting. The answer's 42. And almost all the lucky people saw that, but none of the unlucky people saw it.
That's really interesting.
It is really interesting.
Yeah. I think I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Do you think you're lucky?
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah. I would have never thought whether it's the firm or the ability to travel or just my really cool life, which I think's cool. I would have never thought I would have got it initially, but my mindset's a little more positive.
Yeah,
and I feel lucky.
I think it's like I do think that it compounds.
Yeah.
And I could see why it can also compound the other way.
For sure.
So I think when you like have certain things happen in your life that you're like, that's really like, I do think it's like there is somewhat of a domino effect unless you have the knowledge to be like, wait a minute, like this is not good. I'm being negative. I need to like kind of stop and like kind of rewire my thinking. I also struggle with the idea of like luck because part of me thinks that there is no such thing as luck. And I know I'm like contradicting this whole thing, but like what if it's like a little bit more complicated than that and it's like more karmic? So like maybe you're born into a great situation, but it's not that you're lucky, it's that it's like karma from another life.
Okay, now that's if you stick within this realm and this life, karma, I can talk about it all day long. But if you start going to I can't.
So you check in when they're working, when you're not there. You're engaged.
I'm engaged, except for last summer when I went away for my very long wedding and honeymoon. I was totally disengaged.
And did anything like fall apart?
No, but interesting. There were a lot of things that were already off before I left, and I kind of put blinders on because I was gone a long time and I couldn't deal with it then, that I dealt with when I got back. But it wasn't really in relation to me being gone. It was just we were off on some metrics and some numbers, and I had to dive in and find out why. And I did, and it took a bit. But it really had nothing to do with me being gone for 2 months. It's just when I came back, it was just like staring at me, and I had to address it. Usually I don't see any drop-off. Now, you go back 5 or 10 years, I did. But that was when I was like the hub of everything. Now I'm not the hub of everything. They can work without me.
So like, what if like you had to start a firm all over again?
I could do it.
What would you do differently?
I would grow way faster.
Why?
Because it's so easy.
Why? Tell us, because this is like the biggest struggle for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. It's just math. So if you want cases, there's so many ways to get it. You had a slide up there on your presentation earlier today, like the 10 different ways that you can get cases,
Yeah, but
right?
see, you also heard my very initial point, which was like, just because it didn't work for you doesn't mean that it doesn't work, period. Because the problem is somebody will go and they'll try SEO, or they'll do one fucking billboard and it doesn't work. And then they're like, oh, it doesn't work.
Look, we started this podcast with an example. I did LSAs and they didn't work.
Right.
And then I came back later and did them, and I'm loving it. I'm killing it. Okay. So just because you try it once or try it for a month or 2 months doesn't mean it doesn't work. Or just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It might work for somebody else in another area. But back to the question, what would I do? I would figure out wherever I am how to get cases, and there's probably say 10 different ways, maybe more than that. And I would start spending money on that.
But what if you didn't have money?
I'd borrow.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't start a firm without some source of capital. You have to because it takes money.
Grassroots. Social.
I think that's tough.
That is tough. I agree.
I think that's a slow way to get cases. I mean, it's great. Build your brand.
Yeah.
It's going to help. It's going to assist. But as far as, I think it takes money. But I think that's okay. I don't think that's a barrier. I think if you're a lawyer wanting to go out on your own, don't be scared of what I just said. Just say, okay, let's factor that in. And, you got to save up to buy a house. Maybe save up.
But people are so scared to spend money. And again, I am fascinated by energy, because I swear to you, I've had clients, 2 clients, same market. I'm not going to name names. One fucking kills it. The other has great results as well, but doesn't generate cases. Like, I do think that there's an energy to it too. And when you're so afraid of it not working, I feel like the fear itself, like, sabotages. And I've lived that in my own life. Like, so I'm not even judging, right? Like, I've had to go through that even at LawRank and in other areas of my life. So I think, like, if somebody's hearing this and they're like so scared to go borrow $500,000 or whatever, like, that has to be addressed. Does that make sense? Because if they're so afraid, like, how do you get past the fear?
You got to have faith in yourself first, right? Because if you're going to spend this money, you're going to be the one, the owner of making sure that money's spent right, and you get something out of it, which is cases. So there's a fear there, but to me, it's mindset. And it's hard to get it unless you've gone through it. So I've gone through different periods of my career, and I've looked back, and the regrets are not having a more open mindset at earlier times. I was sitting on a good amount of money early in my career. I got lucky on some stuff, and I do view that as luck, because I was too young to have that success. But I didn't. I took the money and I did other stuff out of law, and I thought I'm good at law. Let me go do all this kind of investing. And no, I should have just put more money back in the law. So I haven't always had. Maybe I had an open mind and I was lucky, but I haven't always put the money back into the law. So when I'm talking about what would you do if you had, wanted to go out and open your own shop, I would have an open mind, have confidence in yourself, and use that money wisely. But it's going to take money. You can't, like your example of the 2 lawyers. I bet the lawyer that has all the cases spends money to get the cases.
He does.
Yeah, and the other one doesn't spend money.
1,000%. And the money that he did spend was very fear driven, and everything was very like there was like a whole energy behind it. Like, I always know when a client is gonna fucking kill it, because they always come super excited. Like, they're ready. They're like so excited. Like, every single client, you included, that has signed up with us, that came into it just so excited and like no fear, does better than the. And I'm not saying they do better in like SEO results. Their just ability to sign up more cases, whatever that is. I don't know if that's like an intake thing or ability to get review, whatever it is. I see it. I see it amongst my own book of business.
So we're going back to the whole, you give so much credit to the mindset, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm saying the same thing with regard to the person starting out. They got to start out with an open mind, and you can't grow a business if you're scared to spend money or scared about putting yourself out there.
Yeah, go be an employee.
Go be an employee. Absolutely. Stay where you are.
Mark is hiring. He likes to be overstaffed. So
Yeah.
he'll always hire.
Call me. I just don't think it's that hard. I really don't. I just think the hardest part is figuring out where you're going to get the cases. But that's not as, to me, that's the hardest part. As far as financing that, you can go borrow money, save up money. I think that's the easy. The money problem is the easier one to solve. The harder one is, where am I going to put the cases? Investigate it, talk to people, come to conferences.
Yeah.
Experiment, but don't be in and out of everything for 30 days. And whether you're doing SEO or pay-per-click or lead gens or referral marketing, just put some effort into it and then go jump.
How much do you think a firm should be putting back? Like, what percentage of revenue should be reinvested in marketing?
A broad range, 10 to 25%.
Okay. That is very broad.
Yeah. If you dial it in, you could do it. I don't think like 10 is probably enough. Let's just take the middle range, say 20. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah. That's what I say. I say 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some people just look at the bottom line and they want to milk out more money. But, the old adage, you got to spend money to make money. You have to keep putting it back in. It's not going to go on forever. Now, if you have a referral source that's another law firm sending you all their cases, none of that applies. They're not spending money. You are, but on the back end.
Totally.
I'm talking about money on the front end.
Yeah.
And 20?
I mean, 20% is much cheaper than 30 to 50% referral fees.
Exactly.
That's what blows my mind, that people don't seem to get it. Again, because I think they're afraid. It's a fear of like, if I go and I spend this 20%, will I be able to generate cases? I mean, I will say you make it sound easy. I don't know. I think it's easy for you. If I were going to go start a law firm, I think it'd be easy for me. But I don't know. I could see why lawyers don't think it's easy.
I can too. And I don't know if I just had more experience because I've been doing it longer and experimented a lot. But I think I think it's easy. I mean, look at all these firms that are just growing. I mean, you see more than I do because I see my market, which is a big market. DFW is like the sixth largest DMA, but you see every market, and you see people go from 25 cases to 50 cases to 100 cases a month, and it happens all the time.
Yeah. All right, back to intake. You said you learned a lot.
So what I learned besides being overstaffed?
Yes.
This is just basic stuff that I wasn't doing for the longest time, is the close rate. The wanted cases. What percentage of the wanted cases do you get signed?
What are you shooting for?
Above 90.
Perfect. I talked about this today on my presentation.
I think it was on my phone. I didn't listen. So above 90. And we found out, we were looking at it last quarter, and we had somebody that I thought was doing really well. And hers was at 75%, which is way below the 90. Everybody else was above 90. And so what we pulled it, did you see a problem? Don't meet your KPIs. Let's dig in deeper and see why. And it turns out she's the first to jump on a new call. So she was screening more than other folks. Okay. She was being a great team player, which is one of our core values. She is like helping people out. Something comes in, she jumps on it. So she was screening a lot, but her follow-up was like pitiful. She was not doing any follow-up. So it was just, that's part of their job is to be a team player, answer the phone, screen, and then we try to sign up on the phone if we can. And she was doing everything right, but the follow-up. And she really needed some coaching. So we have these 6 intake specialists. We have 1 supervisor. So once we figured that out, I said, you just got to work on her on the follow-up and like craft out a follow-up plan. Like she's going to, at 10 and 2, she shuts off her phone and does follow-up. And until we get it long enough to where it's a habit, because this particular person just wasn't very good at follow-up, but good at everything else. And that's an easy skill to teach.
And was this recent, or did you have enough time to like see the close rate go up?
It's already up because there was only one problem that can be fixed really easily. So we saw it, late last year, and it's already better.
Okay, but imagine how many firms have this problem with their whole freaking intake. Like, this is what blows my mind about intake.
What would be scary is if you had this problem, two parts to it, with all of the intake, and nobody knows it's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what this happens all the time. This is 90% of firms.
Okay. But you got to answer the phone, you got to answer it quickly, all that stuff. And you and I have a story on that, of course. But, which the story is my phone.
Oh, I forgot that story too.
Yeah,
I didn't talk about that today.
That's actually a better story.
That is a great story.
The quick story is my traffic was fine. My signups were down. I'll tell Maria that signups are down. And so she looks at everything on her end to see what's going on with the website. I mean, they were down like 50%. I forgot the numbers. It was like from, I don't know, whatever it was down a lot. And then she is going to call me to tell me that she can't find out the problem on her end.
Yeah, like everything looked fine on my end. Like we have a way that we screen for this to look for anything that's off, but everything seemed fine.
Okay, so Maria calls me, but she doesn't, for the first time ever, doesn't call my cell phone.
See, that's like another weird energy thing. Because like, why did I call your firm?
Which I don't recall you ever calling my phone.
No, I had never called your firm. This is like, I don't want to derail this. I know I had switched iPhones, so I think maybe that had something to do with it. Like I had just upgraded phones, so maybe it didn't have like my recent. So then I called your firm.
And then the phone rang 7 times before somebody answered it. 7.
I was so fucking pissed.
Do you think you were?
I remember I called you and what did I say to you? I think I was even like irked.
You were. You're going,
I think I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like your phone just rang 7 times.
That's basically what you said.
Yeah.
And I remember I was actually pulling into my office, and usually I'll just finish a phone call in the car before I go in. I couldn't even finish the call. I just basically hung up on you.
Yeah, and you were like, I'll call you back. And then you called me with your intake person.
No, well, I don't remember that. I remember me walking and I said, I need everybody in the firm in the conference room. Okay. My conference room's not that big. I didn't care. I'm going to squeeze them in like sardines. And I rarely do this, but I kind of went off on a rant because what was happening, well, we had several problems. We weren't adequately staffed as receptionists, which of course you told me we had 2 at the time. Now we have 4. You told me to get more. You and I did like a deep dive of this later.
Yeah.
But that day, I didn't know all this. I didn't know I needed to be, that what was happening is the phone calls were coming in. My overworked receptionist couldn't answer it. So then it's supposed to roll over to the staff. We didn't have it rolling over till ring 4. Then the rest of the staff is just waiting for somebody else to answer it.
Oh.
And nobody was stepping up to do that. And we made several changes. 1, I hired more receptionists. Number 2, we did the flip over to the rest of the people quicker, like on ring 2. But as opposed to the host staff, we had a smaller group that you have to, you are like receptionist is a part of your job.
Yeah.
And then if it didn't answer by 3, then it goes to the rest of the staff as a full backup. And we worked on it, and we got it fixed.
Well, now it's all coming back to me. I remember that when I called you, your firm phone sounds different. So like the ring doesn't sound like a normal ring. So I knew right away, I was like, okay, I think I'm calling his firm. And I was like, well, might as well test it.
Well,
so I let it go to 7 because I purposely was testing it.
Well,
because it hit me during the call.
Well,
go ahead.
A normal client's not going to let it go to 7 rings. They're going to say these people are not in business anymore.
No. I started counting because I was like, wait, this is not him. But I was like, well, I might as well test this since I was going to tell you like all this needs to be tested. But then what I also remember is you fixed it quick because the following month you set a record.
Well, there were 2 fixes to it. Number 1 was just, well, there are more than 2 fixes, but changing the phone tree and how it rings, educating the staff, telling them this is so important, all that. And you have to re-educate. They're not going to just do it off of one little rant that I'm on. But also, we had a glitch in our phone system, and it was ringing twice before we even heard the first ring. And I didn't know that until you brought this in, and that was a harder fix. What we ended up doing was we had to switch phone providers, and we bought all new phones. We spent a bunch of time and effort to try to figure this out, but it was so important.
This is why we paused LSA too.
Yes.
Because you had to fix this issue.
I forgot about that. Yes. So the phones were like less than a year old, the physical phones.
Yeah.
And we got rid of all of them. I can't remember the cost, but I didn't care. And we bought an all new phone system to fix it, because we were working with our service provider and the phone system. We couldn't figure out why it was ringing twice before we heard the first one. And I said, well, if we just start over, will it fix it? And the answer was yes. I said, then we're starting over. And we had to do all that. We had to do it quick because we had a problem. And we did it quick. And, then we turned on LSAs later. What else did we do? Measure KPIs. That you have to do that. You have to be able to do your wanted calls. You have to measure your intake team. And yes, you should listen to the calls. You should ghost call. There's all kinds of stuff you should do. But you have to be able to measure them. Because if not, what you're going to do as a lawyer, you're going to go back and you're doing your law, you're running your firm, you're not paying attention to the intake team. And you could have some people, you could have some C players answering the phone, not closing deals and missing out on that $1 million case or that $1 million fee just because you're not paying attention to your intake.
How often do you look at these numbers?
I get so many numbers given to me. So we have Filevine and Lead Docket. And then it's the reporting we use Domo.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about that too. So tell us what that is.
Okay.
Because we were talking about it at dinner yesterday.
Yeah. There's a bunch of them out there. And another one that's really popular is Power BI. We have Domo. And it is, at least what I know it as, is a reporting system. So it pulls it can pull information from Filevine, Lead Docket, a Google spreadsheet. It can pull from all sorts of sources, and then it presents it in a way that is really readable. So if I want to look at any point in time to see how many cases my lawyers have, my case managers, where they are, how many cases I have in settlement, in distribution, just signed up, pending liability coverage, whatever of our status is, it's on a dashboard that shows me. It's a really cool, fancy dashboard. And me and my COO, other people can see it or parts of it, but the part that we have is just everything. I mean, from finances to expenses, you can it's a way to visualize all of your data that's across 10 different platforms all in one. If you want pie charts, it's pie charts. It's a great way it's very visual.
So does it integrate with, I assume, Filevine, Lead Docket, QuickBooks, like
everything? Everything. It pulls data from everything.
And what does it cost?
I have no earthly idea. I don't know. I'm sure I was asked at one point, hey, do you want to get this? It costs X amount per month. And I'm sure because everything's, by the month, you can't buy anything just outright. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
I know. Everything's subscription based now.
It is. And I'm fine with that. I used to not like that because I want to buy it buy copiers. I'd never lease. I want to buy it. I don't care now. It's just the way of the world.
But it's super smart. It's like the smartest thing ever. But I remember the first time QuickBooks used to be like you would download it.
Yeah.
And then they switched it to a monthly digital, like the cloud thing. And that was like, I think one of the first times I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, my first copier, which is an old reference, right? That was my first time. It's like, wait, I don't want to. I don't want to lease.
You lease it.
I don't even think we have copiers, but anyway, basically I lease everything now. I used to want to buy.
But then they'll fix it for you if there's an issue.
Sure.
But it's crazy. Like, are we just moving as a society away from any sort of ownership? Because I feel like buying a house is more difficult. Like, soon are we going to own anything? I mean, and I know another side rant, but just made me think.
I like to own stuff. I don't want to rent anything.
That's what's weird, right?
Yeah. But as far as this stuff, software,
whatever.
You can't buy it, whatever.
Plus, it's on the cloud, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. You need to see this.
I know. I really want to.
Your reports, though, at LawRank are very visual, and they're like this. Y'all have something that does this.
Yeah.
Y'all might not need it, but if you're running, I don't know what it costs, but it's not a lot.
No, I just want to know more, just for like law firms.
It's cool.
Like if it's cool, then I think people should use it.
Yeah, it helps because there's running the firm with all the cases. There's just so much data that we have. It's hard to find out what do I need to look at. What are the 10 different things I want to look at weekly and make decisions off of, or not even know any decisions to look at, just know what's going on. And this Domo helps me see it in a way that I can consume it, and visually it's pleasing. So it's nice. I'm not just looking at a spreadsheet with 1,000 numbers.
Yeah.
I like to see stuff in charts and bars and trends. Like some sort of graph.
And it probably looks at like year over year. You can filter it by,
all that.
That makes sense. That's really cool. I mean, our dashboard is similar, but you're just literally just looking at like, it's very limited. Like it's just going to be our stuff, not really anything else. Like this sounds amazing. Um, I feel like I know the answer to this, but was it easier going from 100 to 200 cases than from 50 to 100?
Yes,
Why do you think that is?
because you learn.
And like you said, you have the data. It's like, this is how much I'm willing to pay for a case. This is what's working. I'm going to put more money into what's working.
That, but that's just part of it. Okay, that's on the front side, right?
Mhm.
Like marketing gets the cases to intake, that gets it to pre-lit, that gets it to lit, right? And
Yeah.
then you distribute. So you got all these different deals. Well, 50 to 100, I'm still trying to figure out like what's the proper case count, because we wouldn't have that many files in the firm to really know that. Now I know the way we're structured, what's the best way for case counts. And that to me is really important, and just as important in growing a firm as the case acquisition cost. And I've drilled that down, what I'll pay, and I'm good with that. But what I probably didn't have at 50 to 100 was solid case counts. And so you're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Well, so if I know I'm pulling in 200 cases a month, that I'm growing, because I know how many I'm distributing. So I'm growing each month and I know where those cases are. But for easy math, if I cap a case manager at 100 cases, then as I'm seeing it come in, I know I need to be adding. If I'm adding, I need to be hiring now for somebody. I need to hire them because it's going to take me a bit. They got to show up. They got to be trained, and then they're ready to take cases. Whether that applies, whether it's a lawyer or a case manager or an assistant. And so if I need to know those, and I know them now. Okay. So going from 100 cases to 200 is so much easier because I can look at all this data being given to me and know, I'm going to need 3 more case managers in 2 months. How many do we have that are being trained ready? 1. Well, I need to find 2 more. Let's go get 2 more. And so then we go get 2 more, and we're not in a bind. And you always got to have extra people in case people leave, all that. And so that, going back to your question, why is it easier? Because you have more experience. You know what your firm, what you can handle. Everybody has different case counts. Different firms, because do your case managers write demands? Do they have, do you have a demand writer? All that affects capacity. But once you know what the optimal capacity is, and I know now how my firm operates, what are those numbers? It's so much easier to grow, because if I want to take it from 200 to 300, I'm going to know that that's X amount of cases. I need Y amount of case managers. Then we just got to focus on that.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I think we are going to move to we already are much more data driven, just businesses in general, especially with AI and being able to aggregate data now.
Yeah. I don't even need AI for this stuff. Now, AI, I'm just fascinated with. I love it. But the stuff I'm talking about are just core business principles. And,
But the data's you have to be able to, because this all sounds great, but like trying to dig for that data is very difficult. Like you're using a software. I don't know if the software utilizes AI or it doesn't. And I don't think it matters, but it's able to pull a lot of this data for you to make these, I don't want to say correlations, but these, okay, this is how many cases my case manager has. I can kind of project it out.
Yeah. I don't use AI for this. I do love AI, and I'm going to use it more in the firm, and I don't even know the benefits, the full.
Do you use it at all?
Right now, only demands.
With Even Up?
Yep. I use Even Up demands with great success, and I'm looking at using AI in other capacities within the firm. I'm not ready to. I'm going to start trying it out before long. I'm meeting with folks here at the conference, but I like all that. But going back to what we were talking about, AI doesn't have anything to do with that. That's just basic stuff.
And just data. Looking at data.
Data, and everybody has that data. You don't have to have a case management software to have the data. You know how many.
I just don't think people look at it.
Look, you don't even need deep dive data. You just need, okay, I keep going back to case counts because that's the easiest thing. Okay. Let's say you have 4 case managers. How many cases they have a piece? They know that. Even if you don't know it, they know that. Okay. And then you got to figure out your optimal number. And then the rest of it is just applying your data to how many cases you have.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And projecting.
projecting, you got to have confidence in your marketing, but that makes scaling so much easier. There's a lot more that goes into it, but let's say you figure out how to get the cases, then you got to figure out how to process the cases. I'm talking about process.
Yeah.
And I always say it's just math. It really is just math, and you don't have to have Domo or Power BI or any of this fancy stuff. You could just got to case counts. I mean, obviously, you got to look at. We're not even talking dollar amounts. You have to look at money and revenue and how much are you making money and all that stuff, average fee, all that stuff.
There are firms that don't know their average fee, which to me is like mind blowing. I'm like, but this is like really easy. Like that's like literally you're just dividing like one time. Like it's like this is how many cases.
It's like the easiest number to get.
It's literally but people don't even think to look at it. And I'm like, I'm like genuinely confused. Like, how do you make decisions without data?
I don't know.
Like, I don't get it.
Well, you make decisions, but you can't have confidence. Like I know our average fee, right? And so, but also know our average fee depending on on source.
Right.
So if it comes in to a referral, how does that compare to one that comes online? And
is mine shittier?
No, yours is better.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like a lot better, and that's why I want more online cases. With online cases, you can get. I mean, the sky's the limit.
People swear that online cases are like low-hanging fruit cases. And I keep trying to tell them, no, they're not. Like, you can generate some really great cases from online.
I just disagree with that. My experience at my firm is that online cases yield the best result financially. Now, I don't do radio, TV, and billboards, so I can't say what those cases generate. I do basically everything else, and online is great.
Well, the thing with offline is that the cost per acquisition from offline tends to be pretty high. However, it makes your conversions online so much higher.
So when you say offline, you're talking
billboards, radio, TV. So like if you say, okay, how many cases do I know that I directly signed up from these sources, right? And you do the math, the cost per case is pretty high, like thousands.
Okay.
Like it depends on the firm, but I've even heard like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. Like it can be pretty high, right? But what it also does is it makes your cost per case on digital so much lower. So all of a sudden, all of your online cases shoot up because you're converting better because you're not the first time that right now, you have a lot of reviews. So like that really actually helps you a ton.
Yeah.
You would not do as well if you didn't have the amount of reviews that you have from digital. You wouldn't convert.
They assist.
They help convert.
Sure.
So they help rank, but they also help convert. So people are more likely to call you, right? Like imagine if you also had a brand, right? When somebody's picking from all these firms and they've seen your brand, they're more likely to trust it, more likely to click on it. So what we find with our clients that do offline is their cost per case goes down. So then they really have to look at a blended cost per case. Like what is my cost per case from my marketing overall?
You always thought like this?
Yes. Why?
I don't remember having this conversation with you before.
Yeah. I feel like that's why Brian White did billboards. I told him to go do billboards. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't the only reason, but I was totally on board and was like, yes, let's like go do the billboards.
Okay. You remember when a year or two ago, I was really thinking about going into radio and I was like interviewing and I was like really into it. And I was talking to you about that a lot. I remember part of this then. You're going, that I want you to do it if you find the right deal because that's going to help your online. I remember that part, but I don't remember you being such a proponent of offline.
I'm a proponent of billboards. I think radio, if done correctly, can be really good. My concern with radio is just like the investment and you have to have the right ads.
Okay, so if you're starting a firm, I get to be interviewer for a while. If you're starting a firm and you have $100,000.
That's it?
Let me finish. And for your initial spend.
Okay. Monthly?
No, you're starting a firm. You can't start out spending. Well, you can, but most people
Okay.
wouldn't.
I mean,
Would you spend your first 100,000 on the digital side or the billboard side?
digital,
Why?
because it's direct intent. People are actually searching for a lawyer right then and there.
Okay.
So billboards, radio, it takes time.
Okay.
But what really, again, the reason that it helps digital, doesn't help digital, it helps conversions, is because when somebody has that direct intent, they're more likely to sign up with you. They're more likely to call you because they've seen your brand.
Makes sense.
So what breaks my heart, and I find like literally like the saddest of all the stories, is when a law firm does offline but doesn't rank digitally. I find that the saddest because they're doing the hard thing. They're doing the most difficult thing. And their biggest benefit would be if they were showing up locally and organically and like doing LSA correctly and doing ads correctly.
So why do they do it that way?
Because it's hard to rank. Like you have 200-300 firms all competing for the same terms. And really, you have maybe 7 firms that generate 90% of the cases digitally. You have to be one of those 7 firms. And maybe they're doing it in-house, or maybe they keep hiring shitty agencies. Like maybe they don't want to allocate the type of budget that it requires. It's not easy to rank. What happens is with a firm like yours, like you've ranked for so long that you forget what it's like without it. Like you assume, oh, anybody can do this. No, you have like 7 firms in your market that are going to take most of the cases. You're included in there.
I know. I remember what it's like to suck on the digital side. That's what I did before I came to you guys. I mean, I was pissed, and it was hard to throw money at something that wasn't working. So I know. Okay, going back to a question, you would spend it on the digital side. At what point would you bring in billboards?
I mean, as soon as I had the budget for it, as soon as I had the budget for it, where I knew that I could do it for 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, like I have no fear that I'm not going to be able to pay for this for the next 3 years because it's such a long-term play, in my opinion.
Okay, so I'm not going to use 100,000 because you didn't like that. But percentage of budget, if you had a good budget,
Mm-hmm.
how would you allocate that between digital and billboards?
I think I would do local service ads, local SEO, organic SEO, and then depending on my budget, I would do billboards or Google Ads because I know that the billboards would help the LSA, local and organic. Although the Google Ads helps too because again, you're creating that repetition. So that would be tough.
But Google Ads, you're not saying PPC. You're just
I am.
okay.
Google Ads is PPC.
Okay.
I would probably test Google Ads because Google Ads is not necessarily like, it doesn't have to be permanent. Like with billboards, I know that I would want to commit to it for a while, for years. With Google Ads, I would just test to see like what my cost per case is from Google Ads and the impact that it has on my other digital channels. Like, does it increase LSA, local and organic signups? I would measure that to then determine, do I want to pull that budget and put it towards billboards, or do I want to keep this as is?
Okay.
And then the next thing would be billboards. Then I'd probably then do radio.
All right.
And all this time I would do social, organic, and then retargeting on social from the traffic that's coming into the website.
Sure.
Yeah.
You for sure do that. Okay. So if I'm going to take your advice, I should do billboards because I am already
Yes.
performing well in my market. I am spending money on LSAs
Yes.
and pay-per-click. Maybe I could spend more money. I don't know. It's not like you throw all the money there.
How
and
much
it
are you
works.
spending on Google Ads? Well, actually, I do know. I mean, you're spending a good amount. You have to hit the threshold. Meaning, like, you say, okay, I'm spending. Let's use easy numbers, right? I'm spending $50,000 a month. Okay, I like the cost per case. I'm going to push it to 100. You get to 100. Cost per case is the same or lower.
Okay.
Okay, I like it. I'm going to push it to 200.
Okay.
Wait a minute, my cost per case went up. I'm going to lower it to 150. Okay, great. This is a great cost per case. Now you know that that's it. That's the number. It's 150. You play until you there's a threshold on both ends.
Okay.
Like you have to spend enough to make it work, but you also don't want to spend too much.
There's
on
a
the end.
diminishing return at some point.
Yeah. So you want to find that sweet spot. You're in a really large market. So your sweet spot could be like pretty fucking high, right? But once you get there, then you say, okay, I'm going to go do billboards. Again, I think billboards would absolutely, without a doubt, help your digital. And you don't only want to rely on digital. Like, it was one of the first things I said to White. I was like, solidify your market. Like, before you even go and open an Austin office or something like that, like, solidify your market. Like, I would give you the same advice, like, solidify your market.
I'm not dying to do billboards. I just want more cases. And so,
I know you're always like, I'll do what works, but I don't really want to do billboards.
no, I mean, nothing against it. The guys and gals that do it, that's great. I have no issues with any marketing. I just want to do what works. But I still think there's some upside on the digital side. So maybe I'll keep playing there.
You definitely still have upside. I mean, you can expand to suburbs, get offices in suburbs. No, every office should generate cases, even in the suburbs.
Yeah.
You know?
And
like, I would also do my billboards around my office. Like, you that have multiple offices, I would start off my campaign with billboards around my offices, because what pops up around your office? Your GBP.
Yep.
And you know that those people saw the billboard. I would be very strategic about it. We can talk about this offline.
We're just trying to be interesting and give info to people.
Oh.
That's all we're doing. That's why I'm interviewing you right now.
Yeah, that's like...
Is this...
You can interview someone. Not me, though.
What else do you want to talk about?
No, that's it. We're done. Thank you so much to Mark for everything he shared with us today. If you found the story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show.